There's a new talk on the internet between Steven Pinker and Bill Gates in which they talk about how much better things have gotten since the Enlightenment. Bill Gates even talks about his favorite new book called Enlightenment Now by Pinker, where he documents all the ways in which things have gotten better. However, the one data set and graphs that he will not show you are those that refute his thesis by showing how the framework that allows for all these improvements is not just regressing or declining, but actually collapsing. And that is, you guessed it, the ecosystem. So here, for example, we see that as the era of enlightenment he loves so much gets going, we see a sharp increase in species extinctions, which goes up even further with the advent of the industrial age. This is due to two factors: increase in population due to the increase in food production and the advance of medicine, and the increased production and consumption. With all its corollaries, overfishing, overlogging, the introduction of invasive species through travel, pollution, the taking over the habitat of other species through the expansion of agriculture, and so on. Here on this chart, let's see if we can find it, we see a correlation between an increase in human population and an increase in species extinctions. Here we see another one. And so the conclusion is pretty clear, and an article came out last year called Sixth Mass Extinction, the Era of Biological Annihilation, after a study that came out around that time. And the author concludes that what is at stake is not just the fate of other species, but the fate of humanity. Now, think about what this represents. It's a twofold regress in the two areas that we value the most. So morally speaking, we think that we have morally advanced. But this ecocide may arguably be morally worse than genocide, because genocide, after all, is the killing of only a small percentage of the human species, and this is the complete destruction of many other species that amount, arguably, to at least as much, if not more value, than the people killed in a genocide. In terms of survival, if any system does not allow for survival in the long term or even in the medium term, then we cannot say it's a good system that allows for things to get better. And so the Enlightenment ideals that Pinker mentions, and these graphs, in fact, are not being discussed honestly. Now, why wouldn't he mention these facts? Why wouldn't he mention these graphs? Why would he omit all these facts and data? Well, to me, it is clear that the Enlightenment is partially a religion. It is a faith that came about when the belief in a heavenly future that religion was providing ceased to be part of the general culture. We had a secular process that made societies more secular. And so we needed a new faith, a new religion. What does progress do? It promises humans a heavenly future, a bright future here on earth instead of up in heaven. And so I'm going to play this clip for you, and you form your own idea. If you want more information on the notion of progress being a religion and all the studies backing up that conclusion, I will link to a video that I made a few months ago called The Denial of Death by Ernest Becker Explained. So let's play this, and you make up your own mind.
I loved Better Angels of Our Nature. I'm even more thrilled about your next book, Enlightenment Now.
I was inspired to write it after I finished Better Angels of Our Nature, which had all of these graphs showing measures of violence and decline. And people started to write to me from disciplines that I was only dimly aware of, saying it's actually much better than you even mentioned. Hunger is declining, and infant mortality, and maternal mortality. And even came across odd things like the rate of death in traffic accidents plummeted like 100-fold in the last 50 years. Your likelihood of getting mowed down on the sidewalk if you're a pedestrian, air traffic safety, even perhaps my favorite graph in the whole book, your chance of being killed by a bolt of lightning have declined by more than 95%. Now, of course, it isn't that God stopped throwing thunderbolts, but we have better houses, better cars and tractors. Humanity really does seem to be improving in one area after another. It almost makes you believe in this old-fashioned thing called progress.
Yeah, I'd say the most stunning thing to me ever is this disconnect between the actual improvement and people's mental view that maybe the past was better, maybe the future's going to be worse.
As a psychologist, I'm curious as to where this disconnect comes from. I think part of it comes from a funny chemistry between, on the one hand, the nature of news and the nature of cognition. Namely, news is about stuff that happens, not about stuff that doesn't happen. So there's never a Thursday in March in which you say hunger has plummeted or diseases have been decimated. Whereas things that go wrong all at once.
I'd love to have people have this positive message and see where it really does hint at how we can do even better going forward.
I couldn't agree more. Ideas matter.
Even
the
better,
universe kind of doesn't care about us. We've got law of entropy. Things fall apart. We've got evolution. We've got bugs who are constantly trying to kill us. So the odds are really stacked against us. But if we try to understand how the world works and make people better off,
start with the
we
facts.
can succeed. And that's a different view of progress. It tends not to be popular among 21st century intellectuals. But I think that the facts show that it works, not all at once, but bit by bit.